Have you ever tried to crochet and thought, why does this feel so hard? Why does this yarn keep splitting? Why do my stitches look weird even though I'm following the pattern? Why are my hands hurting? And you start thinking, maybe I'm just a bad crocheter. And let me tell you something right now. It might not even be you. It might be your crochet hook. But beginners almost never get told this. Today I'm going to share with you 12 different crochet hooks, the difference between all of them, their pros, their cons, and I'm even going to share with you some juicy details of what other crocheters said were their reasons they will never buy a certain crochet hook ever again. Because sometimes knowing what to avoid can be more valuable than just being told, oh, go buy that one because this, and this. Also, I will have links to all of the crochet hooks that I share with you in this video. So if you find one that you think is really interesting or you want to give it a try, all you have to do is go into the description section below and it's there for you to click on and get right away out of ease and convenience. Quick test. How do you hold your crochet hook? Do you hold it in a knife hold, like you're cutting something with a knife? Or do you hold pencil hold, like you're stabbing something with a straw? That's going in the video. I did a poll. I was able to get 495 people to answer the poll, which is a good number. Of those 495 people, 84% said they were a knife holder. Only 16% said they were a pencil holder, which kind of blew my mind. This also means that most crocheters out there are probably knife holders, which means that most people would probably benefit from an ergonomic crochet hook. And some of them may not even know that. This right here is a standard crochet hook. It's tubular and it stays the same size the entire extent of the crochet hook. This is an ergonomic crochet hook. You'll see the handle is bulkier and it's a little bit softer, easier to grip around the handle. So see the difference? Standard versus ergonomic. So if you start to feel cramps in your hands while you crochet, or you consistently crochet for more than 20 minutes at a time, I highly recommend that you look into an ergonomic crochet hook, whether you are a knife holder or a pencil holder. I know a lot of pencil holders don't think ergonomic crochet hooks work for them because of how we hold crochet hooks. I am a pencil holder and I know there are quite a few ergonomic handles that don't work for me, but there are a few that do. And the whole idea of an ergonomic handle is for comfort, is to help alleviate a lot of that pain and to help you crochet longer by just having a much more enjoyable and comfortable crochet experience. I just highly encourage you to have an open mind and look into them to see if maybe an ergonomic crochet hook could be right for you. If on your crochet journey you ended up buying a whole bunch of the standard streamlined crochet hooks because this was the most economical, it's a great place for you to start when you're just beginning your crochet journey. So you got a whole bunch of these and you're like, man, I think that I do need to have some kind of cushion. I need to go up to an ergonomic crochet hook, but what do I do with all these? Well, I have good news for you. These are not just a waste of money. You can get something called crochet hook grips or crochet hook sleeves, and they look like this, and they're not very much money too. So these are from Hobby Lobby. They're $1.49. See right there? Or you can get these off Amazon, or there's a lot of different places that you can get these. Here's the idea. You just slip your crochet hook into the sleeve and now you have that comfy grip. There are also online, I've seen some larger grips. So if you're somebody who really struggles with your grip, maybe you have carpal tunnel or you have some kind of issue with your hand where you just cannot get your hand to like fully grip, there are these giant sleeves that you can get that you can slip your crochet hook into. They will help you out. So if you are someone that needs those modifications, they are available out there. There are ways, and we can fix your crochet hooks so that it can accommodate you. So yay, you do not have to throw these away. There are things that you can do. Next, we're going to talk about the difference between inline crochet hooks and tapered crochet hooks. I did another poll, and of 209 crocheters, 79% said they preferred a tapered crochet hook. But what's the difference? This right here is an inline crochet hook. I am using a Susan Bates crochet hook to model this. The inline crochet hook has a very sharp slant or very sharp indent into the head or throat of the crochet hook. The idea is that it creates a grab or a deeper hold of the yarn. So if you're somebody who really struggles to keep yarn on your crochet hook, it just keeps slipping off. This usually happens to people that have a looser crochet tension. You might really benefit from using an inline hook, because the idea is that as you're inserting your crochet hook into the stitch, you're yarning over. That yarn is now going deeper into the throat of your crochet hook. So when you grab it, it really grabs the yarn. The con that people mentioned was that this sharp point of the head of the crochet hook right here, the claw, it has been known to grab stitches along the way or split yarn. Now, if you're somebody with a tighter crochet tension, stitch tension, I could see this happening, because as you're making tighter stitches, smaller spaces, I could see how as you're pulling the yarn back through the stitch, that pointed claw could grab other things that you don't want it to grab. Now, the other hook I'm going to talk about is the tapered crochet hook, and I'm using the Clover to model the tapered crochet hook here. A tapered hook has a much smoother inside grab. The inside of the throat is a much smoother kind of transition. The idea is that this tapered form or shape helps make a smoother stitch, because it's not such a deep throat. It's not grabbing the yarn so deeply into the hook. So as you're yarning over and pulling through the stitch, you're able to release the yarn much smoother, much quicker. So that is the big difference between tapered and inline. Just has a better catch or a smoother release. And with most people having a tight crochet tension, I could see why the tapered crochet hook got such a high rating or high percentage. 79% preferred it. Like, I get that. By the way, if you like learning this way, where I break things down so beginners can actually understand the why behind crochet, then you would love my crochet club. It's this incredible community where crocheters can go to level up their skills, troubleshoot problems, and actually feel supported in everything that they do instead of frustrated. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, I'll put a link in the description section below for you, and you can check out the free trial to see if it's a good fit for you. All right, let's get back to crochet hooks. Did you know about the difference between the top of your crochet hooks? That there are two different styles. There is the pointed tip, that looks like that. And then there's the rounded tip, that looks like that. We're looking at the very top of the crochet hook here. Holding too many. Can you kind of see the difference here? This one right here, it actually has a point there in the center, and then it gradually expands, whereas this one right here has more of a rounded top, right? So yeah, that's a difference. What are the pros and cons of each? The pro to having a pointed top, if you have a tight stitch, this is going to make it easier for you to enter your crochet hook into the stitch, because it's going to enter the stitch in that smallest point, and then as you are pushing your crochet hook into the stitch, it's just going to gradually make its way in, yarn over, pull through. These type of hooks with the pointed ends are also very helpful if you're working like a loop at the front of your work, or a loop at the back of your work, or even at the top of your work where you're back loop only, front loop only kind of things. It's just going to help you enter into the space, like glide right in. Some cons that people said about the pointed top were that it can unintentionally go through yarn strands instead of just into a stitch, so it can split the yarn entirely, which can be a bummer if like that happens a lot, but just wanted to let you know that is an option. Now, what about the rounded? The rounded is thought to work with all yarns, and it creates a more consistent stitch. So as you're working, it's just going to be much smoother. And again, like this one, it can accidentally enter in places you don't want it to. This one, not going to have the same issue, but because it is rounded and not pointed, you may have to work it a little bit if you're having trouble entering into a stitch. So just a thought. Who knew there are so many different crochet hook neck lengths? Oh my goodness. Today I'm only breaking down two, the short and the long. Okay, we're not going to go deeper than that. Now, if you are using a short neck crochet hook. The pros are that it helps make your stitches a little tighter, make more consistent stitches. It has also been known to slow down your crochet process because you are stopped, you have to yarn over and then pull, stopped, yarn over, pull. It's more of a smaller range of motion here as you are making your stitches, and it was interesting. I got a lot of feedback saying people felt like it caused them to slow down their whole crochet process, which can be a good thing if you find that you're making some errors in your project and you're like, I don't know what's happening. This can help out a lot, okay? The long neck crochet hooks, they are thought to increase the speed of your crochet because there's no stopping. There's just quick range of motion here. But the one big con that I found people mentioning was that the long necks can make it very difficult for you to create a stitch tension consistency. I personally like the long neck crochet hooks, and let me explain why. So when I'm crocheting, I like to stab into the stitch, grab, pull, stab, grab, pull, stab, grab, pull. That's how I crochet. So when I am using my crochet hook, I like to have a long, smooth neck. So when I'm basically stabbing into the stitch, I'm able to just have this flow, nothing stopping me, okay? When it comes to the short neck crochet hook, it has an abrupt stop. This space right here, it actually stops you. And for me, it just feels very abrasive and it throws off my whole flow. But I guess that is a really good pro and con for you to consider. If you are concerned about your stitch tension, you might want to consider a short neck crochet hook where it's forcing you to slow down and it does create that more consistent stitch tension, and as you go you can try the long necks and see how that works for you, and so I definitely encourage you to try both. Have you ever asked yourself, why would I ever need a wooden crochet hook, or why would I ever need a plastic crochet hook, an aluminum or metal crochet hook, or even a resin crochet hook? What's the point? Well, it might surprise you to know that there are some pros and some cons to each one of these mediums, the materials that your crochet hook is made out of. And these pros, cons might be what helps you to have a better experience or is the issue in your next crochet project. So let me explain. All right, first up, we're going to talk about the metal or aluminum crochet hooks. So the pros to the metal hooks are that they have a smooth glide. They're strong and durable. They're cooler to the touch, which can be refreshing to some crocheters. They work great with yarn that is highly textured or has a lot of friction. So if you're working with a yarn that has a lot of fibers that just want to cling to each other, or fibers that want to cling to your crochet hook, with the metal or aluminum crochet hooks, they have nothing to cling to. So your crochet hook is able to just glide easily working with that yarn. The cons with metal crochet hooks, some people said that they can be heavy and they didn't like the weight of the crochet hook. There was also some complaints that the crochet hook did feel a little too cold, which made it uncomfortable or a deterrent from wanting to use it. Next up, we're going to talk about the wooden crochet hooks. The pro to using a wooden crochet hook is that the wooden hooks have little grooves in them, which create just a tiny bit of friction, which can help tame the yarn that is on your crochet hook. If you're dealing with slippery yarns, or you're having a hard time keeping the loop on your crochet hook, it just keeps wanting to slip right off, a wooden crochet hook can actually help tame that yarn by keeping the yarn on your crochet hook. There's not so much friction that it's holding on to the yarn. It's just kind of keeping the yarn on a little bit longer. The wooden crochet hooks can also tighten up your stitches if you're having trouble getting your stitches to have more structure to them. Some cons to using a wooden crochet hook are if you're using an artisan wooden crochet hook that was made by somebody, there could be splinters or little splits of wood that is catching on the yarn, and it can ruin your yarn. Now, these little splinters can be fixed with a nail file. You can just file it smooth and be good to go, be just fine. Another issue is some people don't care for how lightweight the wooden crochet hook can be. They say it bothers them, it bothers their flow. and it can break. So your crochet hook that's made of wood, if you drop it, it can break pretty easy. And sometimes, depending on how the wood on the crochet hook was treated, you might need to maintain your crochet hook by adding an oil or just filing it periodically. So there's potential of there being a little maintenance to a wooden crochet hook as well. The plastic crochet hook. So some of the pros to a plastic crochet hook is that it's lightweight, it's generally inexpensive, it slides smoothly in the stitches, and the plastic can have a bit of friction. It's not sticky, but it has the ability to grab some of the yarn fibers. So if you're dealing with slippery yarn, the plastic hook can just provide that little bit of friction to keep the loop on your crochet hook so you can complete the stitch and have a really nice stitch tension. Some of the cons to the plastic crochet hook: many are cheaper quality. If they used an uneven mold to make the crochet hook, it can cause plastic lines on the hook, which can grab and ruin your yarn, which is not ideal. And also the plastic, if you have really tight stitch tension, you can potentially bend your crochet hook. And so just a thought there. It is strong, but it's still moldable. So it might not break, but it could bend. Last but not least, the resin crochet hooks. Now, the pros to a resin crochet hook are they're just really pretty. There are artisan resin crochet hooks made by people that they add glitter to the resin, or items like little flowers or toys or gems, rhinestones. I mean, there's a lot of things that people have done with resin. They're just really aesthetically pleasing. Now, like the plastic crochet hooks, the resin hooks are going to have a very similar friction grab to the yarn as you're working with it. So there is that bonus, but the cons are pretty substantial. The cons to a resin crochet hook are, depending on the quality, some people have had sticky resin that just fell apart. It bent really easy. The yarn fibers just clung to it and they had to like wash it off. There's too much stick to it. They're also very delicate, easy to break. You drop it, it can break. You got to be very careful with a resin crochet hook. Again, they're beautiful. They make you feel special when you use them, but you just have to be very careful with them. Now let's talk about the crochet hooks that people are raving about. I went through and found all the different crochet hook types that multiple people said were their absolute favorite crochet hooks to work with. So I'm going to showcase each of these crochet hooks so that way you can see what's out there and maybe find your next favorite crochet hook as well. All right, are you ready for some juicy stories? Now, this part is gold because sometimes hearing what to avoid is way more helpful than just being told what to buy. I reached out to my YouTube community. I asked them, what was it about a crochet hook that made you think, nope, never again, or nope, not that one? So this is what some people had to say. One person said, the end of my hook has to be just the right amount of pointy, not so pointy that it splits the yarn, but pointy enough to go into stitches easily. This sounds like an issue with the tip of the crochet hook. Remember we talked about that? So some people, it's a big issue if it's too pointy, it splits their yarn. Another person said, it needs to be smooth. I don't want the yarn catching on it. So this person probably works with a lot of yarn that is textured and they don't like having friction on their crochet hook. So for this person, I would highly recommend a metal or aluminum crochet hook because of that smoothness, allowing that glide that they're talking about. Next person says, I don't like long handles. I like it nice and compact. Interesting. So we just went over all these different crochet hooks. You may have noticed their handles were all different lengths. So being aware that where the crochet hook handle hits on your hand, it may be a pro or con to you. All right, next person says, I don't want a heavy hook, too hard on my hands and wrists. If you are somebody who has wrist issues, maybe a metal aluminum crochet hook might not be for you because they are a little bit on the heavier side. Now, depending, if you have something that's really thin, it's not heavy, but the bigger you go, the heavier it's going to be. So just being aware that the material that a crochet hook is made out of will affect the weight of that crochet hook. All right, somebody else said the number one thing that I don't like with a hook is a rough tip. When I crochet, the tip will rub on my finger. Oh my gosh, and it causes a raw spot on my finger. Interesting. So they're probably talking about the top part of their crochet hook. That would be like the neck to the head of the crochet hook. They are probably using the way they're holding the hook. I'm assuming probably a knife hold. And as they're working the stitches, it's rubbing their finger raw. And so if this is an issue for you, I might encourage a crochet hook with nice thumb rests, or, you might even like the dots, because the dots don't just have a thumb rest. They also have a little angled section at the top. It's a triangle. And so the top of your finger can actually have a place to grip there too. And it's comfortable. So that can help prevent any rubbing or the rawness that is hurting your finger. That does not sound pleasant. Okay, next person says, I have had to add a recycled pin grip. A recycled pin grip to the smaller hooks as my palm feels bruised if I am crocheting for long periods of time. This person is most likely a knife holder, meaning that they're holding the crochet hook with the grip of their palm. And yes, having that soft, squishy grip, they have the sleeves that I mentioned and lots of different sizes of sleeve that can help make your palm feel so much more comfortable. So if you are squeezing your crochet hook so tight, you're actually causing bruises in the palm of your hand, then I would highly encourage you getting some kind of sleeve cover for your crochet hooks. That way it just is giving you that nice comfort, that cushion. That's the word I'm looking for, cushion. Next person says, hooks that split my yarn a lot, and those big plastic hooks for bulkier yarns, the equivalent of nails on a chalkboard. Yikes. Okay, so this person would probably benefit from using the metal crochet hooks because they are not going to grab the yarn like she's talking about with like the big bulkier yarns. And yeah, they're gonna have a nicer, smoother glide. And then when she talked about splitting the yarn, maybe having a rounded tip on the top, so that way it's preventing a lot of that splitting from happening. So, oof, those are some big pet peeves. All right, crochet hooks with a long neck. So again, some people don't like that. I do, some people don't. And then cheap plastic hooks that come in amigurumi kits that bend when crocheting and rough edges catch on the yarn. Oof. Okay, so if you have never purchased a kit that, like one of those amigurumi kits, the stuffed animal kits, a lot of kits will come with crochet hooks, and some of those more inexpensive kits, their crochet hooks aren't the greatest, and they do have those flaws to them where the hook itself will snag on yarn and it's not not ideal. And she was just talking about how those hooks also can bend too. When you're working with amigurumi, you're working with tight stitches anyway. And so yeah, making sure you have a hook that can handle that tension is pretty big, very important. The handle is too short, runs my palm raw. Ooh, so one person said the handle is too long. Another person said the handle is too short. So I think we all have different palm sizes, different hand sizes. So that's gonna come into play as well. A soft handle hooks, the metal hook does not stay in the handle. Ooh, okay. After just a couple uses, the hook budges and I have to keep shoving it back into the handle as I work. That would be very frustrating. Again, we're talking about quality here. Depending on what you're using and how you use it, if you're finding that the quality of your crochet hook is falling apart, it might be time for you to upgrade. Whew. Okay, Furl's metal H size as it was just too heavy and caused fatigue very quickly. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I do have a Furl's crochet hook right here so you can get an idea of the shape. Those of you who do not know what Furl's crochet hooks are. So the Furl's crochet hook has this bulkier section in the handle to hold on to. Now imagine if this was all metal, solid metal, not hollow, it's all solid. Yeah, that I could see how that could be heavy, and like especially the bigger the crochet hook size, the heavier it'll probably be, and how that could affect, you know, making your hands tired. Next one says, I don't like inline hooks because the hook space isn't big enough. It splits my yarn a lot and I end up having to redo too many stitches. Interesting, because we did talk about inline crochet hooks. Let me grab one. So this is an inline crochet hook, and we talked about how the inline has that deeper cut, that deeper slant right there, right? So if this person is saying that they don't like the inline, maybe they're confusing the inline with the tapered, but we're just assuming they are meaning inline, and they're saying that there isn't enough space for their yarn and I end up having to redo a lot of stitches. I am curious if they are working with a yarn that's thicker, thicker, and a crochet hook that's smaller. In that case, yeah, if you're working with a size, an F or 3.75 millimeter crochet hook that's smaller, often used for amigurumi, or an E or 3.25 millimeter crochet hook, those two are often used for amigurumi, and you're using a bigger yarn, like a thicker size 4, maybe even, yeah, thicker size 4 would be most commonly used, or a size 5, then yeah, there's going to be issues because this hook for the inline wasn't made for yarn that big. It might not be a good pairing. In that case, it's just the wrong hook for that yarn. And again, it's not you, the crocheter, it's not the crocheter at all. It's just the pairing, the match of the hook to the yarn. It's not a good pairing. You just want to pick a different pairing that'll work better together. La, la, la. Next person says, I don't like the ones with all the balls or anything but smooth. So these are artisan type crochet hooks. I'll put a picture on the screen for you where the handle is like a bunch of spheres. Next person says, I don't care for resin hooks. The yarn doesn't glide easily. Interesting. So again, it all depends on the yarn you're using and also the resin hook. Some resin hooks are a little more sticky or have a little more friction than others. One person said, if the hook is too heavy. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about weight of their crochet hook. Something to think about, take into consideration there. And then the last one I have here says, I can't stand any plastic hook. The squeak, the drag, it's awful. As soon as I tried a metal hook, and more recently wood, I knew I'd never go back to plastic again. Very interesting. I hope that all of those people's comments helped give you something to think about when you're picking your next crochet hook, trying to find what's right for you, and so taking some things into consideration, like, do I care if the top of the crochet hook is pointed or rounded? Do I care if I'm working with a longer neck crochet hook or a shorter neck crochet hook? Do I care how heavy the crochet hook is or what it's made out of? Do I want to give resin a try? It just doesn't hurt to hear about all these other people's experiences and what to look out for when we're looking to buy our next crochet hook. All right, so the big takeaway here is there is no best crochet hook. There's only the best crochet hook for your hands, your comfort, and your crochet tension. So if you're crocheting a project and things are feeling a little awkward or a little bit hard, before you start blaming yourself that it's all you and you're not a good crocheter, try changing up your crochet hook. See if that helps. This video is part of my Absolute Beginner Crochet Series, where I'm helping you to build your crochet confidence from the ground up. In my next video, I'm going to be sharing all of the other crochet tools and notions that you really need to have in your crochet toolbox. I'm going to be sharing all the options out there, from the most budget-friendly to the fancy stuff on the market. You're not gonna wanna miss that video. It's gonna be a really good one. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video and hanging out with me today. I hope you have the best day. If you like this video, please push that thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, maybe share this video with a crochet buddy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye everyone.